Good afternoon, world. It is moments past noon in Waxahachie, Texas, on the 8th of April. You know what happened a year ago today, don't you?
Was it a year ago? Really? No. What?
Total eclipse of the
Oh,
sun.
nice. I
And we got
remember.
a little poem about that
Yeah,
written by grade schoolers
I remember.
here in the Lone Star State.
Yep.
And it's April 8th, and it's episode number 54 of Grit and Good News, which we're proud to provide for you. We got Sammy at the board, and we're broadcasting live from our palatial downtown second story studio in the shadows of the historic Ellis County Courthouse. And I am your co host, Jeff Lynch. And this is your host, my friend, your pal, Scott
Thank you,
Brooks.
bud.
So,
This
bro,
is palatial, isn't it?
in it,
We never really talked about our little studio here, but this is
well, I bring
built
it
from
up every week.
scratch up.
You know,
Well, yeah,
I
you do,
self proclaim it. I
but we
said,
never go into detail about, from scratch. We got our signs, we got our Bama stuff, we got our sarcastic little quips back here, like well, I can't read them backward, but
did we change our date on April 1st on the
oh no, we
calendar?
didn't. We didn't. But anyway, we can
Anyway,
change it soon.
yes.
Thank you for being here. Jeff and I have this show every Tuesday and Thursday from noon till 1 o'clock. We have a growing base of viewers, and we're grateful for that. So everyone that's new to us, welcome. This will give you a sense of what we do every show. Hey Terry, good to see you, or good to have you here, bud. Uh, we love doing this. We really try to bring the world to Waxahachie. We talk about a variety of different things and we try not to ramble, but sometimes we just do. That's what this is about. It's authentic and conversational, and we love the feedback. So thank you for being here. This is Jeff just said our 54th show. So
54th.
Jeff started a little thing that's kind of fun. Well, it's a lot of fun actually. He takes our show number, uh, episode number, and says what famous athletes wore this number. So tell us about
And
54.
normally we go through these in a little more depth, but I got something a little more fun to do afterwards. So I'm going to go through it quick. And when I told Scott this, he was right off the bat, number 54. His first choice was Brian Urlacher, great linebacker for the Bears.
And who else did he play for?
I did not go deep on that.
Dolphins.
Dolphins,
Yep.
Dolphins. Then we had Zach Thomas, also a great
Oh,
linebacker.
maybe that's who I'm thinking of.
I think you are.
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we had Randy White for the
Oh,
Cowboys with the
yeah.
great nickname. This is a great nickname. Do you remember?
Something with cowboy,
He
right?
was the Manster.
Man.
Switching sports, we had Goose Gossage and Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
And we had Popeye Jones, who I'm not the biggest basketball follower, but to me, the most important thing about Popeye, he's the son of Seth Jones, who grew up playing hockey in Plano.
Wow.
And so there you go.
Very
So
cool.
Wayne Gretzky's record eclipsed finally after a long quest
Yep.
by Alex Ovechkin, a tremendous Russian person.
Yeah.
And he may end up playing after his career here. He may go to the KLA. That's the
Oh, the
Continental League
yeah.
with the K
Continental
with the
okay,
funny
yeah.
spelling.
A lot of folks do that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the record now is Alex on top, Wayne number two, Gordie Howe number three, 4 and 5 both wore Stars uniforms. I've seen them both at the arena in my days, many times as a season ticket holder. You got anything on 4 and 5? Who they
Mm,
might be?
I don't think Madonna was that high up.
I'll give you 2 clues. One of them wore 68. The fourth one wore 68.
The only player I know where 68 is Jaromir Jagr,
Yeah, Amir Yager.
but that's
That's
not who you're talking about.
that's who I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
He is fourth on the all-time list.
Wow.
Isn't that something? And that he wore number 22 for the Stars was Brett Hull.
Yeah. No goal. He's a no goal. He
Okay,
scored
okay.
that no goal in
He
Buffalo.
did score that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about other great, famous records that they say would never be
Before we
eclipsed.
get to that, I want to ask you about
All right.
this record for Gretzky. Do you remember what year Gretzky broke that record?
Yeah, it's in
Because
this
that record it's
when
one of those records where people said this will never be broken, never be broken. But I can't remember it
March
like
23rd of 94 in a
yes,
game against LA. And by the way,
yeah,
he
played
played
for LA.
every
He played for LA eventually.
Ovechkin.
Gretzky did. Gretzky.
Oh, Gretzky.
Yeah.
Um, it must have been in those days. And then
Yeah.
yeah, he got it for the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of his career was in Edmonton. He
Right.
also had a little stint in St. Louis
Right.
and a short time at the Rangers.
Right.
Um,
Yes, he did.
so, okay, I'm going to give you a stat, and you're going to tell me what it's all about.
All right.
29 and a half, 29 feet, 2.5 inches.
Read it again.
29 feet, 2.5 inches. It's a track and field event.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
triple long jump. Triple jump.
It's the triple jump held by Bob Beeman in the '68 Mexico City Olympic Games, and it was finally eclipsed recently.
My mic was on mute. Just so y'all know, I said pole
Pole
vaulting.
vaulting 29 feet. You know how
29
tall? 29 feet is 3 stories.
All right,
Hey, come on.
here we go. 10.49.
10.49. It's got to be a race. It's got to be
It's
Oh,
a.
that's
it's
the
it's
100-meter.
it's the 100. It's the woman's
I was going to say it's
100
not the
meter
man.
by
Flow.
Flo.
I
Flo.
didn't know that.
Do I get a bonus?
I'll give you a bonus.
Okay, thank you.
Florence Griffith Joyner.
Yeah.
Okay.
God rest her soul. I think she's dead.
18. 18 is a record.
18.
And the minute I tell you the sport, you'll know what it is.
18. Hang on.
It's
18.
not 18 seasons, is it?
No, it's
LeBron's played more than 18 seasons, I think.
it's
Yeah.
18 of a certain type of an event.
18 strikes in a row in bowling.
18 All-Stars.
18 major tournaments by Jack.
Oh,
And
yeah.
major tournament wins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who's
And,
Jack?
and Jack
Jack
Nicklaus.
Nicklaus.
And everybody
Golfer?
said Tiger was going to catch him. I think he stalled out
He
now at
would have caught
14.
him.
Okay.
Yeah, he would have,
Um,
I think.
okay. 23. And again, when I tell you the event,
Major League Baseball games in a row. Win.
no, if I tell you the sport, you'll know
What
it. 23.
I don't know.
Swimming,
Swimming. Gold medals
gold medals
by
by
Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
Very good.
Freak. The freak.
56.
Oh, that's
That's the Giannis.
no, that is not Lou
The
Gehrig.
freak?
Not
That
Lou.
is Joe DiMaggio's hit record, consecutive game hit
Consecutive
record
hit. Pete Rose made a run at it
at
at
44.
44. Very good.
I
In
forgot you said all these are
1978.
older.
Yeah.
And then speaking of Pete Rose, he's got the career hit number at 42.56.
Yep.
And how about this one, though? This is 26.32, and this is a baseball.
That's Cal Ripken.
That's Cal Ripken's
Iron Man.
Iron
Consecutive
Man.
games in a row.
And you know what?
2,632. They play
So-
162 a year.
So Rita is so good on sports and loves her baseball, and she said, "Well, yeah, didn't he play like 17 years?" I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And then I divided,
Yeah. 2632 by 162.
yeah, and I
many?
came out with 16.4 or something. So it was like
Yeah.
he,
Almost
like
17.
I mean, maybe his rookie year, and
Yeah.
then part of his rookie
Yeah.
year, and then the rest of his career. That's
Right.
incredible. 100, 100.
100. I don't know.
It's a basketball number.
Oh, Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain. You didn't have your mic on yet, but you knew it.
You didn't
Okay.
know it. All
Everybody
right.
did. 5'11. It's a
Five.
baseball stat.
5'11.
That's how tall the
No,
Astros kid is.
It's I'm sorry, 511.
Uh,
511.
home runs by lefty.
That is Cy Young's career pitching wins, nearly 100 more than anybody else. Will anybody touch that? No, no way.
That won't be broken.
Okay, and
Never.
the
Not
big
even close.
and a big asterisk on this one. 762.
That's home runs by Barry
You
Bonds.
got it. You did pretty well. You did pretty well.
I know my sports.
I know you do.
Terry says he's a rambling man himself. Yes, you are, and that's a good thing. All right, so there you go. A little fun. We finished it off with our day in history, but that was fun to do too. So, just a couple updates on things. March Madness ended last night with a choke job by the Houston Cougars. In my mind, they had it. They needed to make free throws. They couldn't make them, so they lost to Florida. I had Florida and Houston I had Florida and Auburn in the final with Houston winning it all, so I came up empty. Sammy, who'd you have winning it all?
Duke.
Duke.
I had Duke
Duke
winning.
of
So we
Earl,
all
yeah.
came up empty. That I mean,
But if you go back to some of our early ones, where you
You had
picked it all
yeah.
the way. I did
You'd
have
have
Houston
Florida.
in that
Oh,
one.
did you? Yeah. Well,
So
and that coach of Florida is 39 years old, 36 years old, something like that. It's incredible.
He
well,
looks
he's
young.
tight with his boys, isn't he?
Yeah, he
You
is.
could tell that.
He's their generation,
Yeah.
really. And then I wanted to update you all on the tragedy murder in Frisco that has evolved now. It happened a week ago tomorrow. This claim of self-defense, which is going around. There's now a GoFundMe for the suspect. I think it's reached close to 100 grand.
I saw 300 grand.
300 grand. Yeah. So I mean,
Mm.
I do not belittle anybody or begrudge anybody using GoFundMe if they can't pay for defense. God forbid if Sammy did something like that or whatever, and I didn't have the money, I'd need the money somewhere to help defend my son. On the other hand, uh, self-defense, putting your hands on somebody, the law does not say that self-defense is killing them. Uh, for it to be self-defense, in my opinion, and I think by the law, for it to be a true self-defense claim or justification is that they've got to, your life has to be at risk.
Yeah.
And putting your hands in a bleachers, pushing a kid back or grabbing him in bleachers of a high school at a high school stadium, obviously is not. It's not. The kid said the kid took a knife there. He was prepared to do some damage. Uh,
Rita's son Eric was pointing out yesterday, saying that forget this manslaughter. This is premeditated. You go, you smuggled a knife into a track meet,
yeah,
and you go and sit in the other
yeah. You
team's
sit in that
tent,
team's tent.
okay, and then you say,
Touch me.
push me, touch me, and see what will happen.
Yeah,
You think the guy had a little? You don't think a guy had a little plan there?
yeah.
That sounds like a plan to
Yeah, the
me.
biggest part of that, the two components is that, I mean, it takes a knife. You don't take a knife to a track meet, and you go sit in your somebody else's. I never would have wanted that in high school or any. I mean, unless they're friends, and obviously these weren't
Mhm.
friends, but the kid just provokes it, and then whines and cries. And again, I'm not going to begrudge the family. They may be a good family. Something went amiss, so I don't need to hear
Mhm.
all these. He's
Mhm.
3 point whatever group
Mhm.
GPA and all this other nonsense. He's a murderer, and he should pay the price, and he will pay the price, I think. So there's the update on that. And the last thing is this is Masters Week right here. This is the first sign of that, which stands for, well, God obviously is embedded there, but Amen Corner
We got the
at the Masters.
homemade pimentos cheese
Oh
at the
yeah,
house right now.
yeah. And you know that the Masters, those of you that don't know, the Masters is we should maybe on Thursday we'll go over the nuances and the dynamics of the
Yeah,
Masters. They're really interesting, but one of them is their pimento sandwiches, which they're famous for, are big. They're like that big, and they're $1.50. All their food
and
and
they're on white bread.
drinks,
On white bread,
yeah, all their food and drinks are really low comparatively. But the nuances of the Masters is quite entertaining.
and they're served. Wax paper that you
Yeah,
will fold a
yeah,
sandwich in.
yeah.
It's green wax
Oh,
paper
is it?
because if somebody was not courteous and just threw their wrapper away and
Oh,
it's
it looked like
tumbling
grass.
down.
Well, we'll have a little segment on Thursday to go
Yeah,
over all the Masters idiosyncrasies because it's
yeah, and
really
you know what?
fascinating.
We may do a little temporary redecorating here of our
We
palatial
need to put
palace.
up a Masters thing.
I got enough master stuff, so
Cool, bring it.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Masters is for me. It's one of the. It's special to me because of my dad, but it's also uh, special because I think it's one of the top five premier events in all the
Mm-hmm.
world,
Mm-hmm.
and it happens every second weekend in April,
Yep.
and very exciting. So anyway, looking forward to that. All right, let's get into some meaty stuff. So in our page one block here, we want to talk about higher education. So I have friends. A good friend of mine is Kermit Bridges, who is the president of Nelson University, which used to be SAGO. Kermit's a friend to a lot of people. I really respect and like Kermit. Does a great job over there at Nelson University. Nelson University is a private Christian institution. Then we have Navarro College, which is a community college here. Kevin Fagan runs it. It's a wonderful school, has its purpose, serves its purpose. So I think just by the nature of Nelson being a a private Christian school, and Navarro being a community college, this subject really isn't, the topic isn't really about those types of schools. So we're talking about secular higher education here. And the question is, as life and society has evolved, are we now seeing these universities from Harvard to Tarleton State to Sam Houston and every point in between? Are these schools more education focused or indoctrination focused? That's the real question. I have stories here about uh, uh, really what's happening on college campuses. The Wolf of Wall Street, who is Jordan Belfort, um, in a story here published in last year, he believes that it's a complete waste of time for most students and tells students to avoid secular higher education like the plague. He says college is a complete waste of time. Um, he if you want to be a professional, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or something that really requires a degree, then yes, you should go to college and you should try to go to the best school you can and make the most of it. He's quoted as saying, aside from financial impact, Belfort said he couldn't even recommend that students attend for the social experience anymore, as college campuses have increasingly become hotbeds for far left social agendas. That's the transition from schools like when you and I were in school, and I went to two private Christian universities. Um, the social experience was incredible.
You make lifetime friends.
Yeah, they're still very in my
If
couple of
you're
them.
gonna go to college, I recommend two things: go and stay at that college,
Yeah,
4 years in and out,
yeah,
6-year program and all that. You're
yeah.
spending too much money on the
So,
whole thing. But
so a throwback to those days. Both the educational experience was positive for me, although I
yeah,
can tell you I ended up going into uh, advertising and
right.
marketing, and did so I can't even remember what I took that applied to that. Although the education was good, the social experience was wonderful for me. As you said, we
Yeah,
make friends there, and I have a couple that are still very close to me.
I had two
Uh,
that came all the way from Minnesota for a long
yeah,
weekend
yeah, and
just like
I
two
remember
weeks ago.
last year at March Madness when I went to one of my schools up in Portland, Oregon. He flew down here to go to the regionals with me, and he was 40 years ago. He was I played on the basketball team. He was our basketball manager. So the experience is great, but as Belfort now says, the social cultural experience for students can be somewhat traumatizing.
And the school you went to was what would have been called a liberal education.
Christian education, yeah,
Cri-
Christian.
And
Both schools had the name Christian in them.
if you get a bachelor of arts, that's called a liberal
Right.
education
Yeah.
versus bachelor of science. And
Right.
so liberal meaning wide
Exactly.
variety of getting exposed to
Yeah.
all
It's not a
kind of different
political term.
things.
Right.
But now liberal is considered
Yeah.
a political term.
That's a good point.
But I'll tell you one thing. In today's world, in most cases, if you come out with a big student loan, that's brutal. And if you have any kind of aptitude for things involving working with your hand instead of just with your head, but any of the trades
Right.
are really a place to go because they're heavily in demand. Most of your trade jobs, you're gonna come out of high school and you're gonna take a job in one of 50 different trades. We're gonna start at 18 or $20 an hour, and you're
Hmm.
gonna be making $30 an hour in 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be making money while other people are spending money. You might be still living in your parents and with your parents and not racking up big expenses, and you can get yourself set up for a mighty fine life in those areas. And if for the right people, you're going to thrive in your job because you're going to love it.
Yeah. I would agree.
Because you're the type of guy that likes to fix things and
Yeah.
stuff,
I would agree. I mean,
fix some
one
bills.
of Sammy's favorite people out in the world today is Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk, for those of you who don't know, he's probably in his 30s, maybe 40s. He is a strong conservative, and he's a writer. He's a podcaster, and he's known for going to, huh? Yeah, he started Turning Point USA, which is a site for conservative values. but he goes to college campuses and debates students about any given topic.
Okay.
And he is very strong about telling them. I mean, he's on a college campus and he's telling these, particularly these smart aleck young people who believe they know everything and that they're getting an education that will suit them well. He's telling them directly, you're being scammed and you don't even know it. You're so smart, you don't know that you're being scammed. And so, and he makes points about that. And he talks a lot about what you just
Yeah.
said. Go to a trade school. Their new analysis.
He does not get invited back to speak at that school a second time.
I don't know. He goes to them. I mean, he packs them in. I mean, there are hundreds of students. But there's this story says a new analysis from the HEA group, which I believe is a pollster group or a consulting group, found that 1 in 4 students in higher education programs are earning less than the median annual income of 32,000 for high school graduates. 1 in 4 students in higher education programs are earning less than the median annual income of 32,000. I won't say names, but we have some folks in our world, my wife and I, who are young. They're in their 20s. They have $90,000 worth of between the two of them. They have $90,000 in student loans. They pay $2,000 a month, and they will never get caught up. Never get caught up unless they come into enough money, make enough money to say I'm paying it off at one time. It'll just keep compounding or adding up. But in hundreds, millions of kids, young people are facing those odds, and they will. I mean, there are people in their 40s and 50s who haven't gotten their student loans paid off.
And the interest rate is based on what was the interest rate at the time you were in school and accruing it. And so, I mean, we had this short period of time in our life, in recent life, where the interest rates, the prime rates were down at half a point and 1 point and
Yeah,
whatnot. And so those loans are a point or two above. So, maybe it's 2 or 3, but we have plenty of times, including now, when the prime's up in the 7 and 8 range, and then your interest is a couple above there,
right.
and it's crushing.
Yeah, it is
Uh,
crushing. So the real question oh, let me read this. Over 1,000 institutions show the majority of their students failing to learn as much as a typical high school graduate 10 years after they've enrolled. Um, Amazing. Over 1,000 institutions show the majority of their students failing to earn as much as a typical high school graduate 10 years later.
mhm.
So the question, the point of the topic is one, what is the value of a college? What is the value anymore? I mean, just take Harvard as an example. Back in our day, and I would say even argue up until maybe 5 years ago, prior to COVID, I think most 10 out of 10 people would have said, if you ask them, what value would you place on a Harvard degree or diploma? We'd all say you can't get any better. But today, Harvard has become, in some circles, a laughingstock. One, because of what was exposed of them with the Hamas and anti-Semitism. These schools really have become an indoctrination factory where I mean, we've seen it all. These student marches, these student protests, these violence on student campuses against Jewish kids, and so as far as I'm concerned, and I've been saying it now for a few years, is that it's more of an indoctrination than an education. I watch students, when we have jobs open and we get young people that come in and interview them, it is as distinct as a wart on their nose that they are from a different generation that says, I'm entitled to have the job that you have open.
Right.
And some will not show up for interviews. Some show up as though they just got done working out in the field. Some have no clue what the job is. Some believe because they flip burgers at Burger King that they can come in and be a journalist. I mean, it's appalling. And I think that's the arrogance and the indoctrination that comes from these campuses and
Yeah.
these professors are. You don't get any more arrogant. You see them. I should have had a clip here where Senator Kennedy in Louisiana, who's excellent,
Mhm.
was questioning a Tulane professor, and the arrogance and the hubris and pomposity coming from this dude was just it was he might as well just been soaked in it. And of course, Kennedy tore him apart. But these kids come away from school with that similar kind of attitude, and it's just like, what is going on here?
In regard to what we're saying, tell me what Texas A&M and Harvard have in college. have in
have
common?
in common? Oh, well, uh, they're both schools.
Yeah.
But I mean, A&M is an agricultural, focus.
In terms of the overall value that can affect your life.
Well,
You don't know where I'm going.
no, I
Here's
don't.
where I'm going. Here in Texas, if you go interview for a job and you find out that the guy you're interviewing with is an Aggie and you didn't go there, you got no chance because he's got 8 other Aggies that he's in love with and he's gonna pick one.
Yeah,
And if you're looking for a law job and you tell him and he's from Harvard and you went from Harvard, you're locked up. And that was
yeah.
big in the Hillbilly Elegy
Mhm.
book and movie of J.D. Vance. It was very prominent because those connections, those are connections that work for you all your life.
Yeah,
But by telling anybody I went to St. Mary's University in Minnesota, it may carry a little bit of weight a few places in Minnesota. And you go out to Portland, you may get a little sympathy out there, but
yeah.
it doesn't
No,
play
it
here
does.
in Texas.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I mean, if I'm a Texas grad and a kid in front of me is from A&M and I got other Texas grad applicants, might as well. I mean, they're not going. You can't do it. It's discrimination. But inside that person's head that's hiring, they're likely going to want their fellow Texas grad.
Yeah, and you know what? All the if you're from Baylor, that can help
Yeah,
you. If you're from Tech,
yeah,
Texas, LSU,
right.
all the SEC teams. I
Yeah,
mean, it can make an effect, but it's regional
yeah.
because you're
It is.
LSU and you're going up to Chicago for a job. They go,
Yeah,
who cares, right?
yeah. Yeah. So I agree. So all in all, as far as I'm concerned, I think higher education is losing its prominence, is losing its label, whatever you want to call it. And
Prestige.
yeah, prestige. That's the word I'm looking for. All we have between Sonia and I and our blended family, we have 6, 7, 8 kids. Two of them are, well, a lot of them are adults now. We only have two boys left at home. Of those, of those 8, one went to college, DBU, and graduated, and
And
she's very
I'll
smart.
tell you what's a real ticket that's a smart thing to do. Help me. Is it l- uh, Globe or Life School
Globe,
that you can come out of high school
yeah,
with 2 years
associate's degree,
of college,
yeah,
and those came for nothing,
yeah.
and
Globe
and
is
that's
such a
nothing. I mean, there's places like that all over, and
global,
yeah, it's
yeah,
global.
global,
Okay,
yeah,
and if you don't do that, going junior for 2 years and then moving on, that's another good solution. And again, you're probably staying with your folks those 2 years.
yeah,
You're not paying a ton, and then you move on, and then you find out, I do like this college. I think this is good, and it helped me find a major that I think I want to do.
right,
Help you find yourself. It's a lot to ask of an 18-year-old kid
yeah.
to figure out where to go to school and what you want to be when you
Well,
grow up.
I agree. The last thing for me is that, I mandated any of our kids that wanted to go to college that they took a year off. They didn't go from high school to college. They took a year off, worked, but took that year to say, really, what do I want to do? Now, not all of
Do
them
they
did
call
it.
that the break year?
I
What
don't know
is it?
what they call it, but
Gap year.
yeah.
Gap
So
year.
the gap year of saying, I'm not going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a college education if my son or daughter is not interested in it. And really, the only one that went to school, she and her husband both went to DBU. She, uh, he does very well in the job, uh, doing super well, and she's a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting, which I would opt for her to be a stay-at-home mom any day over, being in a career. That's just how we
And
see life.
Sam's working the gap year right
Sammy's
here.
working the gap year right now, and Sammy's not college material. And I really wasn't either. I went to college because I was on a scholarship to play basketball, but I wasn't a very good student. I was an average student, and just like now, I'm not I'm not pro college,
Yeah.
and I think that's best for our kids. So anyway, there you have it. Ida says nepotism. Yeah, nepotism is involved in a lot of things when it comes to hiring.
And by the way, Terry Beasley, good job on the Manster. Thank you.
Yes, very good job. All right, that's it on education. So let's talk about Trump. We can't have a show without talking about the Trumpster. We had the Manster, now we got the
Gracious no,
Trumpster.
Trumpster. Yeah.
So let's talk about Trump's leadership style. I think it's got not just America, all my grandmother used to say, the butts up on the dashboard.
Panties in a wad.
Yeah, so it's got the world uh all uptight and Twitter pating and all that stuff. My column tomorrow is titled Trump, Musk, and Tariffs. The warrior, the builder, and the shield. And so I go on to explain why I think it's a winning trifecta of uh, men and things that's going to lead this world. I think that's what's happening. But the things that Trump is doing were favored by both parties 25 years ago. The notion of tariffs. Again, a point of history is that before 1930, there was no income tax, there was no IRS, none of that stuff. The way that the country generated revenue
No,
was through.
we had that before. I think it was 13.
Okay, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometime many years ago, but there was a point in America where there was no IRS, where there was no income tax, where it was as we've talked about before, an external revenue service, which meant we got our revenues, billions, from tariffs. And then I don't know if it was FDR or whoever ushered in the social plan, that switched, or eventually it switched. There was a balance. We all tariffs, no income tax. Then it started more income tax, less tariffs, and now, as Trump has inherited and has shown very clearly, we don't. We're getting screwed when it comes to tariffs, and so the burden is on the consumer, the resident, the citizen, to pay money to the federal government so that the federal government, in this case, wastes a ton of it, but can use it for services.
And we could argue that the United States would not exist if it hadn't been for tariffs. And you ask me, how would that be? Well, there was a little something called the Boston Tea Party
Yeah.
when the people had enough because the British were putting this exorbitant tax on teas, and they said enough. And that was what
Yeah.
really kicked off the Revolutionary War. We wouldn't be here if we weren't fighting a tariff.
So we fast forward to the late 90s when those on the left and on the right said, tariffs, we're getting screwed again. We're getting, and namely
Mhm.
by China, and this goes back 30 years. We're getting taken to the cleaners by these countries. And recently, Trump showed a chart that said, here are all the tariffs that are being placed on us, and here are the tariffs that we're placing on on these countries, and some are zero. So we're being taxed or tariffed by these countries, and we're not. It's not reciprocal. And in business, you and I would say, wait a minute. If what do we always say? Well, we want a win-win relationship. Well, that means it's good for both. Well, I would argue it's not a very hard argument to make that America, that's not a win-win for America. That's a win for China in that example and a loss for America. And so Trump has now come out and said, with his list, here are all the countries that we now are going to put a tariff on. And they were implemented this past week. And if China retaliated, the only country to retaliate with an extra 34% tariff since
Didn't Canada kick up a couple?
but they backed off.
Yeah.
So we already had I believe, 67% tariff from China on American goods. Uh, Trump said, okay, it's not going to be reciprocal. Well, China says, okay, well, we're adding 34% to it. And Trump said, well, if you don't take that off by today, this date, then effective tomorrow, we're adding an additional 50% on tariffs. So the left is up in arms, like you'd have thought somebody ran over their grandmother the way they're acting, and it's a joke to me. And the cool thing about Trump is, as I see the world and life, is that he's like, doesn't matter to me. You can react however you want to. My decisions are not based on your reactions. Now, he didn't do any of this in the first term. I would argue he was figuring out what the swamp was all about,
Mm-hmm.
and so now he's ostensibly a lame ducker, meaning that he's thrown it out there that he may run again, but uh, he's going to do what he wants to do, and that is to get this country in its best position of strength as he can. So the question is, let's just take business. Let's take, better yet, let's take an athletic team and say, your high school football team, which is China, is the only team I'm putting on the field is my Pop Warner Pee Wee football team. Who's going to win? You're going to say, well, China's going to win. Obviously, I don't think China has football, but you get the point. So Trump is saying, wait a minute, for this to be fair, I'm going to put the same age football team as you have on your football team, and then we'll be even and we'll play. That's what Trump's saying. And the people are going berserk. I mean, the last Saturday were all these protests around the country, 1,200 of them. And I saw interviews of these people, and the interviewer is saying, "What do you hear protesting?" Well, Trump's a fascist, and Trump's a racist, and Trump's this, and he's that. Well, what do you hear protesting? What do you not want him to do? And they don't have an answer. So these people are either frauds insofar as they've been paid for by the Soros folks and all that to come in and look like protesters, or they are just talk about indoctrination. That's indoctrination. When the left has convinced people that Trump is bad, yet they don't know, these people don't know what Trump's bad about. And the left doesn't bother telling these protesters that, 30 years ago, we were in favor of the same thing.
Right.
They don't tell them that. So we have a country that's on tilt, not because of what Trump's doing, but because of the reaction to it.
And I have three thoughts that relate to this. And number one is um, Donald Trump did not do a good enough job of selling the merits of it to the American people, of having them really understand. He put up that chart one day, but he didn't get any help from the liberal media.
No,
And I don't think he made people understand, okay, we're paying these high amounts, and this is what we're going to do to offset it. And then ultimately, they're going to come to us and negotiate. And now we got 70 countries who have come to us and
yeah,
said, let's negotiate it. The other thing about the media is when this happened, and they're all da 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 da. And how's this going to affect you? Well, your groceries are going to go up, and these are two or three other things are going to go up. It's like your groceries are going to go up. Okay, does that mean across the board your groceries? No, our avocados are going up. Our European cheese is going up. Our European wine is going up. Specific things instead of the broad based everything's going up.
right.
So that's it.
Yeah, and to that point, you don't hear much about eggs anymore, do you? Remember all the
Yeah,
hullabaloo?
yeah,
Well, eggs are at half the price they were 2 months ago. We don't hear anything about that from the media or from the left. Obviously, they're all the same. We don't hear anything about that. In my nightly, although I didn't get my nightly 15 minutes of hate from Rachel Maddow last night, my wife was thrilled. But anyway, the other night I was watching it, and she is so, these people are so sarcastic and rude and demeaning and belittling. And so she puts up this chart, says, and puts up a map, and she shows this island out in the middle of nowhere that's a country.
hmm
All right, it's got a country. It's designated as a country, but nobody lives on it.
yeah,
Only penguins and that kind of thing. So she says, "Do you know that Trump has put a tariff on this country? She's put a tariff on the penguin. He's put a tariff on the penguins." And she goes on and on and on. And in fact, she's right. There's nobody that lives on these countries, and Trump's put a tariff on them. What she fails to either because she's too stupid, or because she's too arrogant, or both, or she's just lazy, which I think she is. Uh, she didn't bother to consider that Trump has said every country in the world, here's the tariff we're putting on them,
yeah,
because and you know why he's putting on tariffs on countries that have no citizens, because he knows that shrewd countries, which most are, will say, okay, you're putting a tariff on us. You're putting a tariff on, you say, China. Well, we'll go through Madagascar, whatever the name of some
right,
goofy island somewhere that doesn't have any. We'll figure out a way to process our goods through there
right,
where
right,
you don't have a tariff.
yeah,
And therefore we're not charged tariffs. So Trump has said he's one step ahead.
right,
Um, so these tariffs, I'm arguing in my column, these tariffs are what this country needs to say, wait a minute, we are the leader in the world, and yet we're getting taken to cleaners on the economic side, on the financial side. I told you earlier that one of my buddies called me and said, "Hey, uh, the market is," he's retired now, "market is killing me." And as retired folks, people rely on the market to do well so that their money grows in their retirement years. And he says, what should I do? And I said, you just sit tight, be patient, and let Trump get through this. One, you don't sell now because it's very low. If anything, you buy. And number two, Trump is going to prove to be right on this. He's going to, you watch a year from now, if not sooner. I think it'll be sooner. The markets will be much, much better. Um, and so, as you just said,
The Dow came back today.
yeah,
It was back more earlier. It's up 262 right now, and
right.
and
It's at 38,000, right? Is what you just
38 228 opened it up
I
at
saw,
38.
I was watching something last night where I think it was Letnick, the Commerce Secretary, or somebody was saying, you watch by year's end, or no, the end of Trump's term, it'll be at 50,000. Um, the stock market isn't always a good indicator of true conditions, but it's one we rely on.
Right.
So the idea is, like with my buddy, just sit tight. We're going to get through this. And anybody that's playing the game of the stock market when tariffs are being enacted is kind of setting themselves up for big time failure. So that's the idea. I think it's good for America, and that Trump should just, and he's going to just continue on. He's a bull in a china closet, as it were. All right. I want to talk about good old AI. So AI, we've heard about artificial intelligence. Sammy, you want to show that video or that picture, Jeff? Sammy, we didn't do that video on education, did we? I forgot all about that.
What
That's all
the
right.
three
Yeah,
part?
that's okay. We don't need it. Yeah.
Um,
Went to all this work to put in
it,
a video about higher education and show you guys some things, and I forgot we had the video.
Jeff, you want me to put it up?
Please do.
Yeah, so Jeff wanted to show you this picture, but AI, artificial intelligence, we heard a little bit about it, say 5 years ago, maybe ever so often. We'd heard about it, and it was never in depth that there was any discussion. Since then, and particularly in the past, I'd say 18 months, it's exponentially spiked in terms of being a major part of society, of business, of culture, of the world, the countries, government. I mean, everything you can imagine, AI is going to have something to do with medicine, so on and so forth. So the question is, what do you think about AI? Is it good for society, bad for society? Just what are your thoughts?
Well, a lot of stuff that comes across is not attributed to being artificially created, and it causes confusion. I remember it took me a while to figure out that uh, that Trump's son was not singing these songs that they were
Yeah, right.
showing. And then I got this from my brother. You got it up there? Can they see it? The cheese and I made a strong comment back to him. It was on a group text with all the six of us, and talking to him. I was pretty stern in my feelings of not liking that, and then I got some responses back.
That was him taking a shot at Elon or AI. Is that what he's doing with that video
well, no,
or that
he was
picture?
like, did you not know that that wasn't real? Well, no, I didn't. You sent you're from Wisconsin. You sent it down to
Oh, the
me,
picture.
and I just thought that somebody had created this big old cheese head and
Yeah.
smashed a car and burned it. I mean, how do I not know that?
Yeah, well, when you sent me the picture, I thought, well, how'd they get that to
How
happen?
did I
Yeah,
not know that? So
yeah,
that's a real harm of AI. That the whole thing that now we didn't have enough people lying. Now I got people creating things, and I think that's I don't know I'm not saying we can do anything about it. I'm not a big fan of it. I'll tell you the
a big fan of it in
uh,
the global sense or in those examples.
well, AI, that it's just another way of saying our computing power has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I can't believe how great it is to Google up a question and have an answer in no time, or Google up a map. I mean, there's plenty of good things that happen from computers, and AI is just computers on steroids. But before I talk about one good thing, um, the other thing that concerns me greatly, we talked about this. Really, we never really had a segment, but we talked about it. These data processing centers, which is what you need to run an AI, is these massive computing centers, and they're being built all over. There's a couple massive ones up in Red Oak,
Yeah.
and they're being built all over, and they take incredible amounts of one of the resources that is so valuable and so scarce, and that is water.
Right.
And so now we're sucking down the water we need to power AI so people can fiddle around and make pictures of cheese going through Teslas and make pictures of Barron Trump singing. It's like, why? But we were talking before the show about stats, and I told you about my father, God rest his soul. I can remember in my teen years, him reading something in the sports page, and he goes, They make up they don't make up stats. They take the most minuscule little facts and build a stat around it. And I
Mhm.
thought about this when I read this in the paper on Monday after the Rangers had gone to 6-2. And they became the first since the World Series winning 1988 Los Angeles Dodgers to win 8 games in a 10-day span with a batting average of less than 192 in a single season batting average. It's like that is the most minutia-ish type of stat I ever heard. And you said, well, that's the deal about AI.
Yeah.
You can say, wow, they got a low batting average, but they won 8 out of 2. I wonder who's ever done that. And you plug that in,
That's right.
and then they kick you back to the Dodgers of '88. And so,
Yeah.
okay, how great? How
Yeah.
great is AI?
Yeah. So for me, my view on AI is a little bit different insofar as I believe it's like putting a weapon in somebody's hands. You put it in the right hands, it can be used
Right?
properly and for good, or for proper purpose. If you put it in the wrong hands, it can be nefarious at best. And so, as you pointed out, you can go on TikTok or any other social platform or anywhere really. Stories have it all the time. You and hit a video and you got, I remember when Luca, uh, there was a Luca interview when he was still with the Mavericks, and I remember seeing it, and he was bashing. I mean, racially, offensively, vulgar. He was bashing another player, and it sounded just like Luca, and you could see he's sitting there, and you could see his lips move, and I got about, I mean, I may not be the brightest bulb in the tree, but about 10 seconds in, I thought, that ain't Luca. That's not Luca. And I've seen it with other
Yeah,
players.
yeah.
And
So
as you put, you watch a singer, somebody be singing, and
they've got those lips moving.
they do. They can do all of that.
I mean,
That's the point. So imagine being a songwriter today,
mhm.
or an artist,
Or a poet, maybe,
or a poet, or writer,
or a columnist.
or a columnist. And so let's just take the songwriter. I I'll never forget about a year ago, maybe yeah, a little over a year ago, I wanted to see what AI would do if I put in, speaking to your point about putting in information and getting out stuff. Mine wasn't minutia, but it was uh AI, I'm asking you to write an anthem, Roll Tribe anthem for the football team of Waxahachie High School. And here are the things that should be in that anthem. And so it wrote in a second, it wrote the anthem. And then if I wanted to, I could take that and say, okay, take that anthem using the voice or the sound of George Strait, Ronnie Dunn, you know, Kenny Chesney, write a fast moving song that has a dance beat to it. And, and, and so then I get the music. Then I could say, okay, take this and make a video of it using the
Hmm.
characters to symbolize what's going on in the song. And in a matter of 5 minutes, if maybe 15 minutes, I've got this song video written and ready to play. That to me is both amazing and daunting because if I'm a songwriter, uh, I or an artist, if I say, okay, take uh, one of your poems and ask AI to write a garden-esque or meadowish picture artwork in the form of like Leonardo da Vinci would do or anybody else,
Right.
and it'll do it in a matter of seconds. That that is a rather it is amazing and daunting to me. And as a
Sure.
writer, I could, there are newspapers right now in America that don't employ hardly anybody because they just plug in the topic and have AI write a story. Well, for those of you that are familiar with AI content, you can spot that in a split second. In addition, there are plagiarism, which we use plagiarism trackers or alert systems, and then we also use AI alert or filters. And so I believe I can spot AI pretty easy, but we put everything that we need to through both of those filters. So, for those that rely on AI, which these newspapers that have been busted,
Right.
it's bad content. And so, but on the other hand, if if uh, we wanted a cure, this is another claim. I think somebody it may have been Robert Kennedy or somebody else in the administration has said there'll be a cure for things in the years to come that we currently do not have. Ignore that last one. Yeah, uh, that we do not have. So we could create a cure for this ailment. Dot 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 dot. And
Right.
AI will tell us by assimilating or gathering all of this mountains of data, as you put, that is required, that is running based on hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, uh, and have a somewhat of, I mean, if we'd have used AI at the beginning of COVID, AI wasn't really used then, but imagine, here are the symptoms, create a cure.
Right.
Instead, we have, no telling what we put in our bodies. So I think I see football coaches being able to say, I want this kind of play, and AI will spit it out in 2 seconds. What are you gonna say,
These
Sam?
kids will at colleges will ask Charlie, what should I do since you're saying college is a scam? What should I do? And he'll explain more, but the base of it is find a job that AI
Well,
won't take.
yeah.
And that's pretty much what he says.
What is that job?
You
Well,
can't get your hair cut on the internet.
yeah, or a welder. Is AI going to create a robot that welds? I mean, maybe.
There's a lot of robotic welding, but
Yeah.
not all
Or
of it.
or,
Yeah.
or like Ross, our youngest, is about to graduate in a couple of months, next month actually, and right now, I think he wants to become a firefighter. And that's in my opinion, one, I'm very proud of him for making that decision. If that's what he's going to do, I'll be proud of him no matter what he does. But if that's what he wants to do, that's an AI kind of a, pardon the pun, but there's a bit of a firewall around firefighting as it
Right.
relates to AI. I don't see a bunch of robots jumping out of a truck and fighting a fire. But AI, I mean, I've told Ross too, and he laughs at me, but I said, Ross, I'm telling you, son, flying cars are on the way. Flying cars are on the way. And
It goes back to the very start of this show when we were talking about the tragedy in Frisco and the stabbing. Is a knife a bad thing? No, a knife in the wrong
wrong
hands
hands are
doing the
bad.
wrong things.
Yeah,
So it's all about taking tools and using them for good, not
that's right.
bad.
All right, we got 7 minutes. Can you fit your poem in?
Yep,
All right,
Sam,
we'll do the
you got it
poem and
up.
then we'll do our
Eh,
our our contest, weekly contest.
So this poem was written by grade schoolers at St. Joseph Catholic Grade School last year in the class that I'm teaching, and I part of what I do is I use a poem starter after we've done some um, rhyming exercises and identification of words at the end of a sentence. And when their minds are warm and receptive to rhyme, I give them a starter and they're off. And
All
what
right,
we did with this one was I saw an eclipse this week.
go for it.
I saw an eclipse this week. I took off my glasses during totality to take a peek. I saw an eclipse this week. It made the sun look weak. The moon's path made it dark, even in my neighborhood. Hark! The coyotes began to bark as the world went eerily dark. I saw an eclipse this week. It's a memory I'll forever keep. It's a memory that can't be beat. I saw an eclipse this week. The beauty of it all made my knees go weak. The glory in the heavenly skies brought joyful tears to my eyes. That's pretty nice, deep
Yeah,
stuff for grade school
I
kids.
agree.
And this one, There was an eclipse this week. I only took a peek. The darkness began to pique my curiosity. Would nocturnal animals remain asleep? Wow. I had a
That's good.
uh, I saw an eclipse this week. Through many clouds we had to seek. The sun shining on the creek. Yes, I'm an eclipse geek. Thankfully, I saw an eclipse this week. I saw an eclipse this week. It kind of made me want to weep. I saw an eclipse this week. It was very cool. I hope to see it again. Will I still be in school? Will it be many years until I get another chance? I feel really lucky that I got this glance. I saw an eclipse this week. It was not meek. It was amazing. It was dazzling. It was blazing. I saw an eclipse this week. All the animals and the bugs became weak. Everything was quiet. Everything was still. People might say that Jesus has come, but it was only the moon covering the sun.
Very good. Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
love you, my little angels. I
Yeah, when
love you.
Jesus comes, it won't be quiet.
No, Siri,
All
bye.
right. It's time for our every show we do as you know by now, this day in history. So let's do it. Uh, and what was your record this
I
morning?
went 7-2 after
Ooh.
a brutal 0-2 start. I hope you guys can get better than 0-2 to start.
All right, let's go.
All right. The Venus de Milo statue, likely dating to the 2nd century BCE, was discovered by a farmer on the Greek island of Milos.
What in the heck?
There's a famous statue called
I
the
know
Venus de
that, but I'm thinking that goes way back.
That's when it.
It was, yeah, he found what we're talking about is when he found it.
When did the guy find the statue that was made in 2 BC?
1889.
1779.
1820. Split the two of you.
Ugh.
I put 2000 AD. Uh, an explosion at the Banner coal mine in Littleton, Alabama, claimed the lives of 28 men, most of them convicts leased out from prisons.
1940.
1961.
1911. The 17th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, providing for election of U.S. senators by state residents as opposed to state legislatures. It used to be the state legislature picked your senator.
That's bad.
1939.
1948.
1913.
Oh, getting stomped.
Dang it.
I had 1919. Cuba announced that 1,200 Cuban exiles tried for their roles in the failed Bay of Pigs invasion were convicted of treason and sentenced to 30 years in prisons.
1960.
1961.
62.
Good, Sammy.
All right. Hank Aaron of the Atlantic Braves hit his 715th career home run in a game against the
Angels.
No. Dodgers?
Dodgers. You get the bonus.
Booyah.
Nice.
Who you on the bonus?
1974.
I was going to say 82.
1974. You get the double bonus. I had the bonus on that too. Remember just where I was.
Booyah.
Ryan White, the teenager whose battle with AIDS drew national attention and led to greater understanding and destigmatization of those suffering from the disease, died in Indianapolis at the age of 18.
1992.
2002.
1990.
Sammy, I have come on like Houston over
Can we get in
Florida.
the 2000s?
No.
When I'm born?
You're in it. Right here.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Right here.
Okay.
Is this the last one?
By special request to Sam Brooks. Here we go.
Terry's hanging in there.
He
Good job,
is.
Terry.
A 76 day lockdown was lifted in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the
Lifted.
global COVID-19 pandemic began.
It has to be 23.
2020.
2020. It had to be
Lifted.
Sammy, that's two more. I came
76 days from
Wuhan.
I mean, in Wuhan where it was created.
I thought you
Okay.
said when
Sammy, just
was
take the L.
lifted.
Just take the L and move
Lifted.
along.
Terry, thank you for your
Ch-
kind
Chuck
compliment.
isn't here to defend you today.
Isaac, tough subjects
all right.
for sure.
So there's all the grit that we had for today. We're going to end our show every Tuesday and Thursday with the good. So Sammy, tell me when your video is up and ready to go.
We're
I wanna-
going. We're going a new direction. We keep
Yeah,
morphing.
we'll call it grit and good news, but sometimes we get so wrapped up in the grit that we forget about the good news. And there's plenty of good news. Could be just heartwarming, could be thrilling, could be whatever. Tell me when you got it. All right, here's the good news for today.
Hey, babe.
I don't have a dog yet.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, no way.
We got you one, Scott. There he is. It's a big boy.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
Falling, right. Okay, is that not awesome?
Touching.
Yeah, we just look at him. We just lost our big dog on November the 1st. Now been 5 months, which is amazing. Maggie, and I
God,
just
it seems like
I know
it was yesterday.
it's that me. But there's your good news. All right, so thank you for being here. We'll be back Thursday at noon. We're gonna have stuff about the Masters. We're gonna have stuff about you'll just have to find out. But we're gonna have a great show. Thank you, Terry. Thank you all for watching. With that, here's my man.
Remember, don't write a check you can't cash.